I've been camping alone for years. It's how I reset. I drive out, pitch my tent far from trails or campsites, and spend a few days fishing, reading, and listening to the wind. No phones, no people. Just quiet. This trip started like any other. I parked off an old service road in northern Wisconsin, loaded my pack, and hiked in about 5 miles. There was a clearing I'd marked on a map years ago, near a small lake, shielded by pines. It felt untouched. No fire rings, no trash, just forest. I set up camp quickly, cooked a simple dinner, and watched the sun sink behind the trees. It got dark fast. I zipped into my sleeping bag around 10 p.m. and lay there listening to the frogs and crickets, the sounds of life. Comforting. Somewhere. Around midnight, I woke up. At first, I didn't know why. No sounds. The crickets had stopped. It was dead quiet, and I mean dead. I lay still, staring into the pitch black above me, every muscle tense. Then I heard it. A sound just outside my tent, slow and soft, like someone exhaling. Not a breeze, not an animal. It was unmistakably human breathing. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then nothing. I froze. My heart thudded so loud I thought it would give me away. I reached silently for the small knife I kept tucked near my sleeping pad. I waited. And waited. No footsteps. No whisper. Just that one breath. Eventually, I convinced myself it had been my imagination. I'd just woken up groggy and misheard something. Maybe a deer. Maybe my own breath echoing in the tent. I didn't sleep, but I stayed still until morning light came through the nylon walls. When I stepped out, everything looked normal. No tracks. Nothing moved in the trees. I tried to shake it off. The second night was worse. I stayed up later, poking at the fire, feeling that same tension in my spine. Around 1 a.m. I turned in. I must have dozed off because again, I woke suddenly. This time, I heard the breathing inside the tent. It was right next to my ear. Long, slow breaths, like someone lying inches from me. I didn't move. I couldn't. I knew the tent was zipped shut. I'd checked it, and I hadn't heard anything unzip. But the breathing kept going, calm, steady, deliberate. Not mine. Not possible. I reached for the knife. My hand trembled so badly I almost dropped it. I rolled over fast, slashing the air. There was nothing. No one. Just the beam of my flashlight bouncing off the nylon walls, and my ragged breathing, now the only sound. I didn't sleep. When morning came, I packed up. I didn't eat. I didn't even roll my tent. Just stuffed it into the pack and started hiking. I kept thinking I'd hear something following me or catch a glimpse between trees, but the forest stayed still, watching. At my truck, I turned the key and locked the doors instantly, even though there was no one around. Here's the part that stays with me, though. When I got home and unpacked, I unrolled the tent in my garage to dry it out. Something fell out of the inner pocket. I don't keep anything in there. It was a small strip of torn cloth. Faded. Stained. I don't know where it came from. But it wasn't mine. Last summer, my girlfriend Leah and I took a weekend trip to a state park in Pennsylvania. It wasn't anything remote, just a well-known park with maintained trails and designated campsites. Safe, family-friendly, the kind of place with ranger, stations and vending machines near the entrance. We picked a site near the edge of the woods, just off the main trail. It was quiet, but close enough to the restrooms and parking lot that it didn't feel isolated. The first day was normal. We hiked, grilled burgers, watched the sun go down behind the trees. Around 10 p.m. we got in the tent. It was still warm, so we left the rain flap open, just the mesh between us and the woods. You could see the stars through the trees. It felt peaceful. Sometime around midnight, I woke up. At first, I wasn't sure what had stirred me. Then I heard it, leaves crunching, slowly, somewhere in the brush behind our tent. I sat up. Leah was still asleep. I waited, listening. The sounds kept coming. Closer now. A slow step every few seconds. Not a raccoon or squirrel. Too heavy. I leaned toward the mesh window and looked out. Someone was standing just outside the woods. He wasn't moving. just standing there, watching. He wore a bright yellow jacket, one of those puffy ones. I couldn't see his face, just the shine of the fabric in the moonlight. My first thought was, Ranger. But he didn't say anything. Didn't have a flashlight. Didn't move. Leah, I whispered, touching her shoulder. Wake up! She blinked at me, groggy. What's wrong? I pointed. She sat up, looked through the mesh, and her whole body went tense. Who is that? I don't know. Is he just standing there? Yes. Neither of us said anything for a while. We didn't want to speak too loud. I reached for my phone, but there was no signal. Leah checked hers. Nothing. The man stood there for another minute, then, without a word, turned and walked back into the trees. Not fast, not hurried, just calmly vanished into the dark. We didn't sleep. We kept whispering back and forth. Should we leave? Should we call someone? But we had no way to. We told ourselves maybe he was a hiker who got lost. Maybe it was a ranger checking the sights. But why didn't he say anything? Around 4 a.m., Leah finally drifted off. I stayed up, sitting cross-legged, knife in hand, ears straining. Just before dawn, I heard it again. Footsteps, coming from the same spot. This time, I didn't wait. I unzipped the tent and stepped out with my flashlight, heart hammering. I swept the beam over the trees, expecting to see the yellow jacket again. Nothing. Then I turned to the fire ring. Someone had left a line of small rocks arranged in a perfect circle, right where our fire had been. It hadn't been there earlier. I was sure of it. And in the middle of the circle, laid neatly like an offering, was Leah's hairbrush. I ran back into the tent. When Leah saw it, she turned pale. I packed that in my bag. We checked. The bag was still zipped, but the brush was gone. We packed everything in 10 minutes. Didn't eat, didn't talk. Just threw it all in the car and drove. When we reached the ranger station near the entrance, we went inside and told the guy at the desk what happened. He listened quietly, then asked, "You said he was wearing a yellow jacket?" "Yeah," I said. "Bright, puffy kind." His face tightened a little. He nodded slowly. "People say they've seen someone like that before. Couple times a year. Always just watching. Never says anything." "Who is he?" Leah asked. The ranger hesitated. "No one knows. We've had staff search when someone reports it. Never find anyone. No tracks, no jacket left behind. Campers always describe the same thing, though. Yellow coat, just standing at the tree line." That didn't make me feel better. We left. We didn't camp again for a while. About 2 months. Later, Leah got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small box wrapped in tissue paper. Her hairbrush was inside. The same one. Same color. Same wear. But the handle had been split slightly down the middle, and wedged in the crack was a single pine needle. It was supposed to be a simple overnight trip, just me and my younger brother, Adam. We'd planned to camp at a lakeside spot about 3 hours from our hometown in Ohio. Nothing crazy. Just time away from work, away from our phones, sitting by a fire with cheap beer and grilled hot dogs. We left late in the afternoon. By the time we hit the rural back roads, it was already dusk. I remember Adam laughing at how empty the road looked. Miles of cracked pavement, lined with dense trees and the occasional rusted mailbox. No houses in sight, not even deer. We were only about 30 minutes from the campsite when I noticed the gas gauge. I'd forgotten to fill up earlier. It was nearly on empty. "Shit," I muttered, checking my phone. "No service." "Do we turn back?" Adam asked. I thought about it. Then I saw a small blue sign up ahead. "Gas, 1 mile." With an arrow pointing down a gravel turnoff. Not ideal, but better than running out of gas in the middle of nowhere. We turned. The gravel road twisted into the trees for longer than a mile. The sun was gone now, and my headlights bounced off thick woods and overgrown ditches. Just when I thought the sign had been a mistake, we saw it. A tiny gas station, barely lit, standing alone like it had been forgotten decades ago. One flickering fluorescent bulb buzzed above the door. The gas pumps looked ancient. Manual dials, faded paint. No card reader, no one around. This place looks like it sells nightmares, Adam joked. But I pulled up anyway. I stepped out. The air smelled like mildew and gasoline. I tried the pump. Nothing. It was dead. Hello? I called, walking toward the building. The windows were tinted, but I could see movement. Just a shape, backlit and still. The door opened with a long, dragging creak. A man stood behind the counter. Mid-60s, maybe older. Bald. Gray overalls. His eyes were glassy, like he hadn't blinked in minutes. "We're closed," he said flatly. "But your sign said..." "We're closed," he repeated louder. I stared at him. He didn't move. "Okay. Sorry." I backed out slowly and returned to the car. Adam was frowning. "What happened?" "They're closed." He glanced at the empty pump. "We're gonna run out before we hit the highway." "Yeah," I said. And then I saw it. Another sign, partially obscured by weeds at the edge of the lot. Camping. 2 miles with another arrow pointing farther down the same gravel road. We looked at each other. "We can stay there tonight," Adam said. "Figure out gas in the morning." It sounded better than sleeping in the car. We drove. The road narrowed, more potholes now, and the trees got tighter, almost leaning in. No signs of life. Then, just as I began to doubt the sign again, we saw a clearing with a faded wooden post. Deer Run Campground. There were no other vehicles. No tents. Just a fire ring and an old empty picnic table. We set up our tent quickly. The quiet was thick. No crickets. No birds. Just the occasional creak of wood from the forest. Around midnight we sat by a small fire. The woods felt too dark, like they swallowed the light before it could spread. "You hear that?" Adam asked suddenly. I froze. Then I heard it too, leaves crunching. Not animals, footsteps, slow, deliberate. "Hello?" I called. No answer. We stood, watching the tree line. I gripped the handle of my hatchet. The fire cracked loudly in the silence. After a few minutes, the sounds stopped. We waited. Nothing came out of the woods. Eventually, we crawled into the tent, both fully clothed, our shoes on. I didn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I heard the zipper of the tent rustle. I bolted upright. "Adam?" He was already sitting up. Neither of us had moved, but the zipper was pulled halfway down. From the outside, we sat there frozen, staring. Then came a whisper, barely audible. "You boys lost?" Adam yelped. I grabbed the hatchet, threw open the flap, and shined my flashlight into the dark. Nothing. No one. We packed up in under a minute, tossed everything into the car, left the tent behind. As we drove away, we passed the gas station again. This time, no lights at all. Completely dark. The door boarded shut with rotting wood. We never found that gravel road on the map later. Or the campground. When I searched Deer Run Campground, Ohio, I found one listing. It had been closed for 20 years.